I I can't believe I'm actually reporting on this. We have some breaking news. The Supreme Court just gave President Trump the green light to fire tens of thousands of federal workers and to restructure the government as he sees fit. In a 6-3 decision, the court sided with Trump's push to expand presidential power, allowing him to move forward with what he calls Schedule F, a plan to make government employees easier to fire and replace. Trump says this will drain the swamp, but critics warn it could politicize the federal government and undermine critical services like Social Security, Medicare, and even veterans care. It could also mean the end of nonpartisan public service, turning government jobs into loyalty positions dependent on politics. The ruling hands Trump one of his biggest victories yet in his plan to centralize power in the White House. And the consequences, oh my God, the consequences could affect every single American who relies on federal service.
Вау. Ой, нет, не вау.
Hey, heads up federal employees. Yesterday, June 17th, 2025, the Office of Personnel Management dropped a brand new memo that rewrites performance rules for every federal employee. If you work for Uncle Sam or love someone who does, you need to hear this before the next rating cycle hits. Please share, double tap, and let us know your thoughts. On June 17, 2025, OPM rolled out an 18-page directive that forces one government-wide appraisal calendar, caps performance improvement plans at 30 business days, and quietly revives an at-will category called Schedule Policy/Career, think Schedule F 2.0. Here's why this matters to you as a federal employee. 1, shorter runway. 30 days is barely 6 work weeks to turn performance around. Less time equals less margin for error. 2, bell curve ratings. Agencies are strongly encouraged to keep top ratings rare. Fewer outstanding scores is fewer cash incentives and step increases. 3, pay actions at risk. Within grade increases, bonuses, and even retention incentives could be withheld if you slipped below fully successful. 4, supervisors graded on removals. Your boss now has a critical element called holding employees accountable. They're judged on how aggressively they address low performers. 5, at-will policy jobs. If your role is deemed policy-making, you could lose ordinary civil service protections. Could parts of this be legal? Absolutely. A fixed 30-day PIP might violate the law that says employees get a reasonable opportunity to improve complex jobs, and those jobs often need more time. Forced rating distributions clash with merit system rules that demand objective evaluations. It seems to violate some specific regulations. Schedule Policy/Career is almost identical to 2020 Schedule F, which got slapped with multiple lawsuits before it ever launched. There's still some pending. Expect round 2. Translations challenges are coming, but you can't bank on the courts bailing you out in time. So what do you need to do right now? So grab a notepad. First, I would archive and make sure you have your current performance plan. Download every version before the new cycle starts October 1st. 2, keep a brag file. Each week, save accomplishments, kudos, emails, metrics, evidence, wins, arguments. 3, force clarity. If a goal is fuzzy, email your supervisor just confirming my target is, now it's in writing. One of the best ways to beat a removal based on performance under Chapter 43 in all of my experience is to show the standard did not set a firm benchmark. 4, memorialize check-ins. After each meeting, send a recap email. Paper trails protect careers. 5, lawyer up early. The moment you get a PIP or on a proposed adverse action, call your union rep, or probably better yet, an attorney who knows federal sector law. Hint, that's what my firm does all day. We help people pass PIPs and we challenge them when we need to. If your career matters and you get placed on a PIP, know that many people do contact a federal employee attorney, and you might want to consider that too. 6, not quite there. You can consider joining our membership. It's $19 a month with 3 free-day trial and includes courses on how to deal with performance issues, including proactively. It also includes access to a session every Saturday where I take questions. It's extra information and security in this difficult time. Go to fedlegalhelp.com/join today. I think we're going on our 21st session. So what to watch next? Watch for OPM's final regs on Schedule Policy/Career. Expect those in the next week or 2. They could delay the rollout. Watch for union grievances pushing back on the 30-day PIPs, potentially. And watch for MSPB or other cases testing whether bell curve ratings stick. It seems to violate some regulations. I'll break down each twist that follows. I'm Sean, a federal employee attorney, and your go-to for cutting through DC red tape. Please share this with your team. Chat, drop questions in the comments, and tap the plus so you never miss an employment bombshell. Of course, do so wisely and compliance with your policy. And yes, for you nerds, if you want the actual 18-page memorandum, we're going to link it in our newsletter. So make sure to get on our newsletter at fedlegalhelp.com/newsletter. If you want that, you can also Google it online. Thank you everybody for your time. Hope you have a great day and take care.
Wow. If you're a federal employee, things are still happening fast. Did you see this 18-page memo from OPM titled Performance Management for Federal Employees, dated June 17th, 2025? At the end of this video, I'll post a link where you can download it. It was sent to heads and acting heads of departments and agencies. I'll try to quickly highlight a few of the major points of this memo. I'll begin by saying I do understand that the federal employment system needs to be updated and upgraded. A while back, my bosses talked me into being an acting branch chief. We had an employee who would never even show up to work due to an illness. Supposedly, she had heart issues, but we never got a very clear memo excuse from her physician saying this. And in spite of this, it still took us 5 months to fire her, to release her. So at the end of the 8 months of my acting branch chief position, when they finally got it posted, they said that they wanted me to apply for it, and I said no thanks. They told me when I took it that it would be 2 months, and it ended up being 8 months because nothing in the government happens fast. Anyway, this is a long memo which you should read very carefully. It says supervisors should no longer rate most of their employees at the highest level, which makes sense. If most employees are rated outstanding, then outstanding becomes average. So be prepared for this. Keep good notes so that when you do your evaluation, you can list specific accomplishments. I worked with a lot of people through the years who were never able to write down specific accomplishments because they did not keep good notes throughout the rating period. And another thing the memo talks about, if you don't do a good job and you're put on a PIP, a performance improvement plan, this is now limited to just 30 days, 30 business days, which is nothing. And it says suspension should not be a substitute for removal in circumstances where removal is appropriate. And your supervisors will now have a critical element in their performance plan called holding employees accountable. Holding employees accountable. So they're going to be pushing you. So you need to be prepared for this. Also, page 16 of the memo talks about incentive awards. So coming up is a link to this memo, which you should download and read very carefully. Thank you.
Federal employees, have you heard about the return of Schedule F? Unfortunately, it's back, and it's now called Schedule Policy/Career. Let me explain what this means, why it's important, and why you should listen to me. My name is Sean Southworth, a federal employment attorney and the founding partner of Southworth PC. I've spent over a decade fighting for federal employees, protecting their rights, and navigating complex federal workplace laws. If you're confused or concerned about these changes, we're here to help. So here's the deal. Schedule F applies to federal employees in policy-making or policy-influencing roles. It removes traditional protections like the ability to appeal terminations through the Merit Systems Protection Board. A lot of rights are gone. But here's the good news. This affects only a small portion of federal employees. If your role isn't policy-related, then this likely doesn't apply to you. For those it does affect, Losing these protections is a big deal. Agencies will have more power to terminate employees, and this creates a lot of uncertainty. But you still have rights under federal anti-discrimination laws and whistleblowing laws, and we'll be here to make sure those are upheld. At Southworth PC, we're monitoring this closely and ready to help employees who think they may be impacted. If you're worried about how Schedule F will affect you, please feel free to reach out. You don't have to face this alone. Feel free to contact us at 866-333-0120 for a free consultation. Let's make sure your rights are protected.
Let's break down Schedule F. Because if you're a federal employee in a policy-related role, this could directly affect how your job is classified. What exactly is Schedule F? It's a proposed federal job category that would apply to positions involved in policy development, interpretation, or advocacy. So that may include job titles like analysts, economists, legal advisors, or pretty much anyone whose work might influence federal policy decisions. These roles would be moved from the competitive service to the accepted service, and that shift matters. In the competitive service, jobs follow OPM's merit-based hiring rules and offer protections like due process before removal. But under Schedule F, agencies would have more flexibility when it comes to hiring and separation. That could mean changes to job security and appeal rights for those reclassified. Now, just to be clear, Schedule F is not in effect right now, but it is being discussed again, and some agencies are evaluating which roles could fall under it if it were reinstated. So what can you do? Review your position description and job series. Check your SF50 to see your current classification, and keep an eye on official updates through opm.gov and chcoc.gov. This is not about alarm or panic. It's about awareness. Being informed now puts you in a stronger position if anything changes down the line. Follow me for more breakdowns of workforce changes that impact federal employees directly. Also, join me on Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for my live support group for federal employees, where we share a wealth of information and knowledge, support each other, and pretty much keep each other in the know. Hope to see you soon.
President Trump issued a fact sheet, and in his fact sheet, he referenced that OPM would be issuing a proposed rule, and the purpose of the proposed rule is moving ahead to create this new category of federal employees. The 90 days federal agencies were given to identify which employees would be put into this new category is just about up. So presumably, OPM has an idea about how many employees would be affected and moved into this new category. OPM estimates around 50,000 people. Now, when this was done back in 2020, some people estimated as many as 200,000 people would eventually be impacted and put into an at-will type of job. We don't really know how many people will be impacted, but it is moving forward, so we'll find out. OPM has issued a proposed rule, or is about to issue a proposed rule, that would actually go ahead and move forward on creating this category of employees, and agencies would, after it becomes effective, start moving employees into this new category. So here's what's going on. President Trump calls it draining the swamp, and the reasons he gives for creating this new category are some of the following. He said that the OPM rule, when it's issued, would empower federal agencies to swiftly remove employees in policy influencing roles. And the kinds of reasons that they would be removed would include poor performance, misconduct, corruption, or subversion of presidential directives without having to go through the lengthy procedural hurdles that they would now have to go through, assuming they maintain the same appeal rights that they've continued to have. And he cited several reasons for this, and it relates back to what I mentioned at first. James Shirk, who's a person who was helping the administration in the first term and apparently has some similar type of power in the second term, wrote an article that outlined what kinds of problems he ran into in trying to implement objectives of the administration. And most of it was not any direct refusal. It was simply people saying, well, yeah, we will do that. We're glad you told us that's what we're supposed to do, and we'll get right on it. He'd call back a week, 2 weeks, a month later, and they'd say, yeah, a lot of stuff's come up. We've been swamped. We haven't gotten to it, but we'll get right on it. In other words, they wouldn't implement the objectives that the administration was seeking. They didn't really refuse. They just never got it done. And to be fair, he also said that most people he dealt with were easy to work with. They did what he asked them to do. They'd discuss it. They'd go ahead and implement it. But not everybody. And it's the not everybody that they were trying to get rid of and put somebody else in their position that would help the administration implement their objectives. In effect, President Trump in his fact sheet said agencies don't hold employees accountable. They want to change that. Removing federal employees is lengthy and difficult. They want to get rid of that lengthy process, make it quick and easy. Bureaucrats use protections the system gives them to oppose presidential policies and impose their own preferences. In effect, this is what he's calling the deep state. Federal employees with a lot of protection, a lot of appeal rights, can't be fired, at least not quickly and easily, so they remain in the job for decades, imposing their own preferences, establishing policies they prefer, and ignoring what the administration wants them to do. He says, in effect, in his fact sheet, unaccountable bureaucracy undermines your democracy, and he wants to create a more democratic government by opposing or getting rid of people who are opposing the administration putting into place its objectives. Now, what would the impact be on federal employees if this goes through? First, at-will employment, meaning you can be fired quickly and easily.
In one of the many executive orders that Trump signed yesterday, he signed a new Schedule F, which essentially strips federal workers' protections. It's called Restoring Accountability to Policy Influencing Positions Within the Federal Workforce. So what is the new Schedule F and what does it do to federal workers? In a nutshell, it makes it easier to fire federal employees. In accordance to the Government Accountability Project, these federal employees can be fired without cause. The proponents of Schedule F claim that the intent of Schedule F is to streamline operations and improve efficiency. But its implementation is not without consequences. His order reclassifies certain federal workers as political appointees, and this will impact federal workers who make policy. The main goal is to remove piss-poor performers, those who are chronically absent, and those who engage in misconduct but have been protected in the past. So essentially, those federal employees who have tenure, who manifest these type of behaviors, your days are probably numbered under the new Schedule F.
Federal employee friends and all American citizens who actually care about the protections that people have, the Office of Personnel Management today filed proposed regulations that would formally revive Schedule F. Now, Schedule F is a made-up rule that Donald Trump tried to implement in his last term and is trying to implement again this term. If successful in changing this proposed regulation and implementing it, it will strip civil service protections from more than 50,000 federal employees, essentially making them political pawns of the president. They'll be at-will employees, and they'll be placed in a new job category where at any point, if they upset the president, they can be fired. Last time Donald Trump tried to do this through executive order and it failed. Then he tried to do it through OMB and it failed. This time they're doing it through OPM in a proposal that supposedly is going to make it more legally palatable. And this will include moving the final decision-making authority regarding the conversion of jobs to the president rather than the OPM director. It also states that the hiring process under the Schedule F policy or career will remain as it is in the competitive services. But hidden in this is another little thing that says that HR or OPM is not required to undergo the traditional notice and comment process to rescind portions of regulations, citing a vague presidential authority to nullify federal rules. So essentially, if OPM can pass this guidance, they can change any federal regulation or rule without a comment period. Now, this is coming at a time of heightened stress for federal employees, where thousands of them have been fired. Estimated 278,000 were illegally fired or let go. And since then, almost 100,000 more have taken some sort of deferred resignation or voluntary separation, all harming the United States. And this has also come at the time where political appointees across the government are suspending and firing employees for perceived disobedience, particularly in instances where operatives from DOJ have accessed agencies and been told no and turned away. Then the people who told them no have been fired or permanently suspended. The normal comment period on something like this would be 90 to 120 days. OPM has only provided a 30-day window, which opens on April 23rd, after which point it'll finalize the regulation. Now, following the issuance of that final rule, Trump must issue an additional executive order finalizing the conversion of positions from competitive services to whatever the new job category is, which right now is still being referred to as Schedule F. Now, I don't anticipate the comments mattering one bit to what Donald Trump, the Heritage Foundation, and OPM are trying to do here, which is to find a way to permanently remove 30,000 people who are currently standing in Donald Trump's way of getting what he wants when it comes to doing as he wishes with the government. And as I said, it's not going to be published until next Wednesday on April 23rd, but everybody who cares about this and the impact of this across the board needs to make sure that they go to the Federal Register on Wednesday and comment as many times as they can with as much information as they can and why they're against it. If we can get all of those comments in, we could potentially turn this around. Now, I don't anticipate the Trump administration doing anything other than what they want, but they've also shown that they do give in to the political pressure of individuals and their constituents. So maybe, just maybe, we can create enough of a backlash that this won't go through.
Welcome back to Fed Up Federal Employee, episode 23. Let's make it make less sense. So first, y'all wanted us back in the office. Cool. We showed up with snacks and attitudes. Then out of nowhere, bam, reduction in force. Not because of budget cuts. No, just because someone felt like it. Now y'all coming for our alternate work schedules like we stole something. What's next? Gonna replace our laptops with typewriters, put time clocks in the bathroom, make us fax our lunch breaks. At this point, just send us smoke signals for policy updates. That would make more sense. Tune in next week when they ask why morale is low while handing us Fun Friday stress balls shaped like pink slips. Got a similar story? Drop it in the comments below. Misery loves funny company.
Yeah, a lot of you out here in society, like, think of government workers that they ain't shit, they're incompetent, they're too entitled and all kind of fuckery. So Supreme Court just cleared the way for Trump to do what he wanted to do. Heritage Foundation do what they want to do. You see, and this is the shit I'm talking about. We're a bunch of neophytes politically, and we're short-sighted as fuck. We're single-issue fuckers, right? I'm cursing all of us the fuck out as a group, as a collective. We, the American voter, we American set of voters, we're stupid out here. We focus on one or two things and don't realize that the one or two things that you focus on is not the only thing that the administration or the politician is going to do. Oh, you mad at government workers too entitled, they're lazy, they're thing and whatever. But that's not the only thing they're going to do. You see, the same administration that's calling government workers that some of you might be cheering on, some of you actually think Doge did a good thing. Stuck it to those lazy, entitled government workers. Those are the good thing. But the same administration is going to take away your fucking healthcare. The same administration that you elected in, you also gave them the green light to fuck with your Social Security. The same administration, right? That you cheered for them being able to fire government workers. The same administration that got rid of the EPA, get rid of OSHA, and basically gave companies, waste-producing companies, the ability to pollute your groundwater again with fecal matter and all sorts of other chemicals. The same administration that you all happy that stuck it to the LGBTQIA, right? All right, them weird folks. The same administration is going to send your kids off to possibly unalive in another worthless war, pointless war. The same administration that you cheered for talking about English being the only language that needs to be spoken here, right? Declared English to be the official language of the country. You cheered for that shit. It's the same administration that canceled all the USAID contracts with your multi-generational farm that you're about to lose. So yeah, cheer and acting like you don't give a shit about government workers losing their jobs, tens of thousands of them losing their jobs that the Supreme Court just greenlit. You know, keep thinking, oh, that's not a big deal. I don't care about them anyway. Keep thinking that. We're going to learn that when you elect an administration or elect a political party, it just doesn't come with the one or two things that the political party chooses to highlight. It comes with a whole suite of things. It comes with a whole suite of things, and most likely a lot of the things that they're going to want to do, if you knew the whole spectrum of things they plan to do, you probably wouldn't like a lot of them. And that's especially true of the Republican Party, because the Republican Party has always, in the modern era, since the 60s, the Republican Party, whenever they got in control, have always caused pain and literal death for the middle and lower classes. They always do this, especially them. They always, let me state it again, the Republican Party always causes the destruction of life, literal life, quality of life, life prospects, destruction of dreams of the middle and lower class. That's guaranteed anytime a Republicans get into power. Why? Why? Why do they always do that? Because they are held by whitey supremacy. And whitey supremacy is always antithetical to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that we say is the American way. Whitey supremacy, which the country was founded on, unfortunately, is antithetical to the myth of this country. And the Republican Party of today, more hues to the foundational juice of this country than we care to realize, than we're still resistant to realize. Yeah, it's sad. We used to say in the black community, oh, you want your stable job? Get you a government job. Well, these folks, they've always bristled hearing us say that. And so now, they've gone out of their way to be especially cruel in crushing that once often well-worn assertion, and for a while, solid assertion. They don't like us thinking we deserve stability. They don't like us thinking we deserve any perks or quality or decent quality of life. And they sure as hell don't like seeing black people especially saying shit like that. They have to crush that. So that's just another part of this too.